Perhaps the things you believe most strongly today are exactly the things preventing you from seeing the truth. Throughout history, humans have always believed their own age represented the peak of wisdom. Ancient people believed it, medieval people believed it, and we are no different today. But one German philosopher argued that truth does not appear when one side wins. It is born from the conflict between opposing ideas. His name was Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel. For thousands of years, humans have searched for final answers. What is truth? What is the perfect society? How can humanity become free? But Hegel noticed something strange. Every time humans believed they had discovered the final answer, history created a crisis that forced them to think again. Hegel was born in Germany in 1770 during a period of enormous transformation. Old kingdoms were shaking. The French Revolution exploded. Ideas about freedom, equality, and human rights were destroying systems that had existed for centuries. For Hegel, this was not just politics. It revealed something deeper about history itself. Before Hegel, many people saw history as a chaotic sequence of events. Wars, rulers, and the rise and fall of empires. But Hegel saw another pattern. He believed history was like a giant conversation, where every age creates an idea, and that idea eventually creates its own contradiction. This is the foundation of Hegelian dialectical thinking. One idea appears, an opposing idea challenges it, and from that conflict, a new understanding emerges. Not by completely destroying the old idea, but by preserving what was valuable and overcoming its limitations. We often assume that people who disagree with us are simply wrong. But for Hegel, even your opponent may hold a piece of truth that you are missing. True progress begins when we stop asking who is right and start asking what part of reality does each side see. This is why Hegel had a very different view of conflict. For most of us, contradictions are something to avoid. We want stability. We want clear answers. But Hegel believed contradictions are the hidden engine behind all progress, from individual thinking to the development of human civilization itself. A child grows by constantly discovering that what they once believed was incomplete. A society grows in the same way. Values that once seemed perfect eventually reveal their limitations. And the moment a system enters a crisis is often the moment a new way of thinking is about to be born. This is what made Hegel's view of history different from many philosophers before him. History is not merely a story of kings, battles, and empires. It is the story of human consciousness slowly understanding itself. Hegel called this process the development of spirit. But Hegel's spirit was not a mysterious ghost floating somewhere in the universe. It represented humanity's collective intelligence, our culture, art, science, and ideas. When humans change the way they understand reality, the human world itself changes. Look at the idea of freedom. Today, many people consider individual freedom obvious, but for most of human history, this idea did not exist. There were times when people believed that only a few were born to rule, while the majority were born to obey. According to Hegel, history is the journey through which humanity gradually discovers one truth, that all humans have the ability to think, choose, and shape their own lives. In other words, history is the story of freedom expanding. But true freedom is not simply doing whatever we want. Hegel believed this was a major misunderstanding. A person completely controlled by their desires is not truly free. They are simply serving another kind of master, the impulses within themselves. For Hegel, a higher form of freedom appears when humans understand themselves, understand their society, and participate in shaping it. Freedom is not the absence of all limitations. It is living within systems that reflect our own reason. But these powerful ideas also created enormous debates. After Hegel's death, different thinkers saw completely opposite paths within his philosophy. Some used Hegel to defend tradition and social order. Others saw in his ideas a tool to transform the entire world. One of the thinkers most influenced by Hegel was Karl Marx. Marx agreed that history develops through contradictions. But instead of focusing on ideas and spirit, Marx argued that the true driving force of history was found in economics, labor, and conflicts between social classes. In a way, Marx turned Hegel upside down. If Hegel believed ideas transformed the world, Marx argued that material conditions transformed our ideas. But even through this disagreement, Marx was doing exactly what Hegel described: creating a new idea by challenging an old one. Today, even though many people have never read a single page of Hegel, traces of his thinking appear everywhere. When we believe society changes over time, when we try to understand both sides of a debate, or when we think crises can create progress, we are thinking in a way surprisingly close to Hegel. Yet the biggest question remains: was Hegel right? Is history truly moving forward, or are we simply repeating old mistakes in new forms? Perhaps Hegel's greatest value was not that he gave humanity the final answer, but that he changed the question itself. Hegel reminds us that truth rarely belongs completely to one side. Every belief, every civilization, and every person may only hold a small piece of a much larger picture. And perhaps true wisdom begins not when we prove that we are right, but when we have the courage to discover where we might be wrong.